Mostly, like, that shot, and then I also really don't like the toe biting, but that's just me.
Fair.
That's just me. I think about, because then I think about what it tastes like to bite someone's toe, and I'm like, that's gross, man. I don't want to do that.
We here at Annie Chatbox
I don't kink
support
shame.
everybody's kinks, and if you're into feet, that's fine. But yes, Cammy, yes. I get it. I get where you're coming from.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Box, the Annie Chat Box. You're tuning in to episode 142. My name is Cammy, and I'm going to be hosting you today. To give the slogan, since I didn't say it first off, you are, again, a reminder, in the box, the Annie Chat Box, where 5 friends snuggle up in a teeny tiny space to talk about all things anime. But today it's not 5, it's actually 3. It's a little bit in flux nowadays, actually. We could probably update our description. Yeah. Note to self for later. But besides me here, there are, well, we'll get to how many people there are once everybody's done. Because my dearest producer, best friend, person in my wedding party, Cassie, is here with a special little guest.
I love that you consistently remind me that I have the honor of being in your wedding party. I'm like so excited. But yeah, I'm here, and so is my dog, because we ran a bunch of errands today, and she was stuck in her little baby kennel. And I don't want to be that awful human being who leaves their dog in their kennel all day. So she's here. She's running around. She's destroying the living room. It's fine. I'm sorry for the noise, guys. But I'm here, too. I'm suffering. Gao gao.
Gao gao. I bet Ichigo could say gao gao.
Gao gao.
And also joining us today, I really hope that he commits to the bit. It's our dear friend from Save Our Progress, Zach.
Bleh, shabba-ba-doo.
Ooh, even better. Thank you. Thank you for that. That was incredible.
Best of both worlds.
If you were one of the life judges, Cassie, who do we think he'd be? Life sexy, life beauty, or life cool?
I would be cool. I'm that much of a
I think you're cool.
Stick up my butt.
Yeah.
He's life cool. Craig is life beauty. I don't know who life sexy would be.
In my heart, I want to be sexy, but really, I'm cool.
It's true.
Yeah. That's. I think that's all of us. I think life sexy is a position that like you strive to be. You know, nobody attains it. You just strive for it.
You strive for it because that is sexy. Shabba-da-doo.
Shabba-da-doo.
Craig would be beauty. I'd be the guy who's like, you can't do that. And Craig's like, nah, they totally can. Shut the fuck up, dude.
It's true.
So, if you haven't seen the show we're reviewing today, this is probably a really confusing bit. So, let me clarify that for you. So, just to give listeners a reminder, we used to do a format that primarily consisted of watching seasonal anime that we passed every season that came out, but we've decided to shift this coming into the new year, where now we're doing a format of host choices, where we get to choose a show no matter what year it came out, and it goes on a rotation of which host decides what show to watch. We also do Shoujo Treehouses. If you've had the pleasure of listening, Cassie and I get to talk about things shoujo, josei, and all around in between. And then we also have a week off. And then we still do our impressions episodes. So that's how our pattern's going right now. And we're starting off the new year with a host choice. In fact, it is Cassie's host choice, Yurikuma Arashi.
I appreciate that so
Yuri
much.
Bearstorm. Love bullet Yurikuma Arashi. I'm glad you do. It's just for you. So let's go ahead and get into it. Yurikuma Arashi was animated by Studio Silverlink. You might recognize them for their work on Kokoro Connect, Tanaka-kun wa itsumo keraruge, or Tanaka-kun is always listless, one of my faves, and Non Non Biori. And Yurikuma aired in winter 2015.
So it wasn't that long ago. Just half a decade ago, you know.
Yeah. Ow, why do you wound me this way with these reminders? Half a decade.
It's what I'm here for.
Right. Right. I was going to say let me read you a quick synopsis, but this is a little long, so buckle up.
Oh, jeez.
In the past, humanoid bears coexisted with humans. However, a meteor shower that fell onto Earth had a strange effect on bears throughout the world. They suddenly became violent and hungry for human flesh, spurring an endless cycle of bloodshed in which bear ate man and man shot bear, forgetting the lively relationship they once had. The Wall of Severance was thus built, separating the two civilizations and keeping peace. Kureha Tsubaki and Sumika Izuno are two lovers attending I hate the name of this school, Arishigaoka Academy, who upon the arrival of two bears that have sneaked through the Wall of Severance and infiltrated the academy, find their relationship under a grave threat. The hungering yet affectionate bears, Ginko Yurishiro and Lulu Yurigasaki, seem to see that bear-hating Kureha as more than just another meal, and in getting closer to her, trigger an
Tigers are a wonderful thing.
Triggle. That sounds like
The bottoms
Yes.
of the river. The bottoms of the springs. They're bouncy, bouncy, touchy, touchy, fun,
Oh
fun,
my
fun,
God.
fun.
Can I get an Ikuhara anime that involves Tiggers? Can I get like a
Yes.
Yuri Tigger anime?
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, they trigger an unraveling of secrets that Kureha may not be able to bear. Ha ha ha!
Ha, ha,
What-
ha.
I don't get it.
I do.
When their relationships provoke the invisible storm, a group that keeps order within the ideological school, the girls must stand on trial with their love, embarking on a journey of self-discovery en route to attaining true love's promised kiss. I told y'all it'd be a mouthful, and it was even longer due to my flub. Great on my end.
What are
Fantastic.
you talking about?
Cassie, if you...
These are beautiful accidents. They're not flubs. They're beautiful accidents.
Oh, beautiful accidents. I love it. I did want to give you a little space, Cassie, if you just wanted to mention, I guess, why you wanted to pick this up for a host choice.
Sure. So one, we have reviewed every single other Ikuhara show on this podcast at this point, and if we didn't do Yurikuma, I would feel even more like the redheaded stepchild for loving Yurikuma than everybody else. So I was like, fuck it. Fuck it. We're gonna go all in. All Ikuhara. All the time. Hopefully we get a new one from him someday. But this is the only one that we haven't done. We even got to Sarazanmai before we got to this one. So I really just wanted to explore, I think one of his most polarizing works, actually. I think that there are people who love Yurikuma Arashi. I think there are people who hate Yurikuma Arashi. And I think there are very many people who fall in between. So I think it's fun to just see everybody's viewpoints. For example, I listened to a really cool Yurikuma Arashi review on Sequence Pod. You should totally check them out. And that entire pod was just split both ways. And they both had very valid points. So I kind of hope we can bring that same kind of energy into this review. Because I think we all have very vastly different opinions on Yurikuma Arashi. I could be totally wrong, but I think we do. So it'll just be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun time.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Sequence Pod's review, because I also listened to it before this recording. I'd heard it before, but then I was like, let me give myself a refresher. And yeah, please check them out. Seriously, they bring up so many good points and just like analysis that I don't have the educational backing for, mostly in psychology. So go ahead and give them a listen. But we're going to go ahead and start where we always start in our reviews, which is talking about story, which is, to me, probably like the most challenging thing for me to discuss in this work. Maybe almost in any Ikuhara work, to be honest. Like,
narrative is...
It's not that there's... Yeah, it's not that there's nothing to talk about, because there is a lot to talk about. It's really, where do we start? And a note that I do have is that I think this is two funny attributes to pair with this show. I think that this is one of Ikuhara's probably most dense works as far as metaphors and symbolism and topics that he wants to discuss, but I also think, unfortunately, because of how short it is, it becomes his most compressed work. So it has a lot going on, and it is thrown at you very strong. But sometimes I think for me, I wasn't able to necessarily get a sense of nuance because it was so much that he wanted to tackle in such a small amount of time that to me it just comes off kind of as like a really like squishy, compressed like box almost. And in that vein, actually, though, I will say I think that the show benefits a lot from rewatch value. This was the second time I watched this show. And I don't know if anyone else agrees with that. Zach, I think we talked about that a little bit yesterday.
Yep.
I agree, too, to be honest. Because, like, I've always loved Yurikuma, but I think that, I don't know, like, there's just something about, I think Zach talked to me about this yesterday, because we had this little pod, little small conversation about, there's just a lot, like, there's so much going on that when the twists happen, they're very, almost knee-jerky, but when you already know what the twists and the information are going in for a second time, you can actually see what he's trying to do much more efficiently than when you're trying to just watch it all in one sitting for your first time. So, I'm completely in the same ballpark. I think that the narrative actually seemed tighter to me on a rewatch than it did initially.
I could see that. Yeah. I think part of that also comes from knowing not to necessarily take everything at face value. And while it is easy to necessarily say that for any Ikuhara work, I think especially for me, I really just needed to be like, okay, so just kind of go along with this ride and see what it offers you. I also had this last time, but again, I think a rewatch was easier. There's a lot of terminology in this show that they throw at you that you have to be open to learning the meaning about, because you're not going to know the meaning of everything up front, and that can be off-putting for some people. Again, I think much better on a rewatch. Though if you asked me exactly what a promised kiss is, I can't really tell you fully. I can give you interpretations. But
I think that you're totally right there, because I tried to watch the first couple episodes of this with my significant other Lily, and when we got through episodes 1 and 2, she's just like, I don't understand. Are the bears actually bears? Like, is it a metaphor? I don't understand. What the fuck's an invisible storm? What?
Yeah.
And I was like, it makes more sense if you watch more, I promise. And then I'm like, actually, but not really, but kind of.
Kind of.
It's just as much you're willing to go with the flow and accept the world for what it is, that there's these weird analogies as metaphors for that are more representations and got to go with the flow. It's not meant to be taken so much at face value.
Yes,
for sure. And I think that some terms, like for example, you said the term of the promised kiss. Like, I feel like you, I can just give some very broad interpretations, and some that are just literal, of what a promised kiss might be. But I think I would feel, like, if somebody came up to me and was like, you can either talk to me about what the promised kiss represents versus what the invisible storm represents, I would pick the invisible storm. Because I'm like, this is
I would agree completely.
Because, some of them are so much more to digest, because it's pretty obvious what the invisible storm is trying to talk about. Whereas some of its other metaphors or some of its other topics are much more, well, you pick your own way to interpret it. And I think that that's intentional. I think that Ikuhara wants you to understand what he's trying to say, but I think he also wants you as a viewer to have your own, stake in it. I think that he said similar things about, for example, the Black Rose arc of Utena, for example. He's
Jesus.
Which again, that particular arc in Utena frustrates me. And maybe on a rewatch I would like it better. And then Zach's over here but I kind of like that.
I liked it, guys. It's coming.
So, it's very, something that very commonly happens with watching Ikuhara anime. I just think it, again, does happen a little bit more with Yurikuma. But again, Utena was 50-something, I don't remember, 38 episodes? 39?
39.
You have time to breathe with Utena.
Yeah.
Which is less so the case here. I just spent a bunch of
Yes.
words and I don't know if any of it made sense. Which makes sense, because we're talking
No,
about
I thought it was
Ikuhara.
really good.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was good. Zach, I feel like I cut you off multiple times. Did you want to say something?
If I did, I don't recall what it was off the top of my head.
Kick us over, Zach.
Oh, no.
Run us over. Run us over with your Ikuhara mobile.
I don't have a lot of notes this time around. I can't have none. I only brought myself, my body, my love, if you will, because I won't give up on it to the pod.
So you won't give up on love. Do you give up on kisses?
It's one of the more interesting
boxes.
This is one of the more interesting themes, isn't it? That I really like about the show is the oh god, that's kind of spoilery though. I think
you can say that consistently people's values are tested.
Yeah,
in the narrative.
Well, I also think one of the recurring themes is like the idea that you have to give up on something for love, to get what you want, to get love. And I think that's obviously interpreted by each character. I think the same thing with the idea of the promised kisses. I think it's vague to a point because what a promised kiss means to each character in the show, I think each
person.
Yeah, it means differently.
Yeah. That's a really good point that I think honestly would have helped me a lot the first time I watched it.
It's honey, clearly, right? You put it in the porridge and it's all good.
Oh my god.
Yeah. You put the honey in the porridge and you mix it all up.
Ginger, honey, milk. It's all good.
It should be apparent from the title, but for anybody that's not familiar, I think more so than a lot of Ikuhara's other shows, this show overtly talks about women in relationships with other women. It talks about like the experiences of being a lesbian, being in a lesbian relationship, or any other sort of, actually, you could identify just on a queer spectrum. But yeah, so I mean, that is a key point, and it's very overt here, and that for a lot of people, I think, honestly makes Yurikuma a very precious watch. That's all I had to say, really.
I also think that's why it's off-putting to certain people, because it's obviously very, its use of imagery specifically is very forward with it. And I think that's off-putting to certain viewers.
Let me lick your honeysuckle, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah!
You're
yeah, the execution.
You're Yuri, if you will.
The execution can be interesting if read as parody, or even if you can read it as parody, some people still find it uncomfortable. So
yeah, it makes me think about, I think I was talking to Kat. It was one of you two. I talked to you both about the show ahead of time on separate occasions. I don't know, because I think it's part of the reason I haven't spoken up too much so far is just because I like the show a lot, but I think one of the things that, in terms of its storytelling, I feel like it's meant to be satire on specifically the Class S genre, and certain literary tropes in terms of lesbians, mostly the predator lesbian. I'm not sure how much it works to a certain degree, but I'm not super knowledgeable, mostly in Class S and Yuri genre in general, so I can't really comment too much on if it's successful or not, but... Yeah.
No, I see what you mean. I mean, you get a sense of that, like, the Class S, a lot with, like, the lilies and specific relationships. I think, like, Kureha and Sumika, for example. And then you have the other side. But Cassie, you had a point that I kind of steered away from.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just going to force Zach to talk more. I had a question.
Well, I already did, so...
But, to go off of what you guys already said, one thing that was pointed out to me, I think by Zach many years ago when we talked about this initially, was the fact that, like, all of the girls, regardless if they're literally making out on the fucking bathroom floor or something, always refer to each other as friends. It's never, it's never my lover.
Yes.
It's never
girlfriend
or anything. It's always my friend.
And the big thing about this is that, like, and that's the thing with Class S genre, and it's the idea of that, you can be into each other, but you can't be more than, like, a sexual thing. And it's meant to be a phase, like, and also done behind closed doors. Like, there's different shots of, like, most of these girls are getting it on with each other, but they're doing it in the privacy of, like, they're going to the nurse's office to do their thing. As long as you can do your thing, but you can't do it in public. You can't go against societal norms and go against the grain as because this is not accepted, and it's supposed to be a commentary on obviously not the class S genre as well, but also just society and how you have to be part of the herd, and you got to follow these societal norms unless you're going to be excluded.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of my favorite things about Yurikuma is how overtly this show tackles society as the main villain a lot more than his other shows, because in that way it almost addresses like tribalism, like the downfall of tribalism when there's too much groupthink, and how that endangers other people, and people are just assumptive to thoughts instead of thinking for themselves, which definitely happens. But I feel like, especially with the existence of the Invisible Storm and the way that the school interacts, it really is like, okay, the villain isn't one big bad. It's literally society as a whole. It's this mass, it's this force. And you have that underlying in Penguin Drum and in Utena, but you tend to have a more like singular villain, for example, like Sanetoshi or Akio, for example. There's really less presence of that here. It really does feel like it's these people up against a world, up against a group of others.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Like, it's still a system. I think it's very important that it's taking place in a school, because that's obviously where you're developing and stuff, but there's clearly like a system, but it's not a system you really think about. And the enemies they're each other. It's a state of the world and the system that they currently exist. And basically that's why they go with the herd, because that's all they've known. They go through school and all that stuff. And that's part of like why they're part of the herd. They just follow it blindly because that's just, they're indoctrinated into it already.
Yeah, and it's the same thing for the bears.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same system
That's
on
very
both
true.
sides, but it's toxic to both sides in regards to relationships between each other and vice versa. Another thing that's interesting is, like you said, there's no like main villain. There's antagonists, but the antagonists almost always are victims of the system as well. Especially with like...
Honestly, though, I'm just saying, if I hadn't seen the show and I heard that, I guarantee you I wouldn't remember whose name it is by the time I listen, because everybody has Yuri in their name. So it's... Yeah, so
I think you're so
we're
fucking
good.
clever.
It's confusing.
I'll just have Craig like bleep out what I said, but like leave it or something.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, like the antagonists are just as much a victim of the system as well. But one thing that made me a little uncomfortable about the narrative, though, is like, I understand, and this has always bothered me, is like, I always understand why the bears in the story do what they do.
Oh, okay.
But they're still murdering people.
This is,
So it's like...
I agree with this 100%.
So it's just like, as much as I love, like, for example, Lulu and Ginkgo, which, not a spoiler, you figure that out in episode 1. It's just like, they murdered at least 10 to 15 girls trying to save Kureha, and it's like, okay, but you still murdered a bunch of innocent girls, so it always makes me feel slightly uncomfortable rooting for them? Like,
I agree, because this is the flaw was I mentioned earlier about the satire aspect, because the clear obviously this is supposed to be a commentary on the predatory lesbian character type that is frequent in all forms of literature and other forms of media, and so they take it literally by making them into these bears who are natural predators, and they attack other women, and it's obviously implied to be kind of like a sexual type of thing, and so on and so forth, and meant to be this commentary. And this is where I feel, and I was saying this to Cass yesterday, that this is the part where I'm not sure how much I like. It's the part of satire where like it does the satire, but it never really comments on why this is a bad stereotype all that much. It just does it, and with the assumptions like you should know this is a bad stereotype.
Right.
yeah.
Right. I just want to shout out both of you for your integrity in that one of your big issues with the show is about people actually being murdered, because when I think about my flaws of the show, like, I understand, obviously, the reasons that things are so sexual in this show, but I'm just going to be honest. I just got really tired of seeing, like, bear buttholes and taint and, like, bears sniffing each other's taints. I didn't even think about murdering. I was just like, stop sniffing each other's taints.
Yeah, that's part of Ikuhara's just weird sense of humor, though, too.
Yeah.
It's like how fucking the kappas go up people's butts, you know? It's part of it's just this weird sense of humor that he clearly has. And,
he has an episode in
Yeah.
Penguin Drum where he literally just has a skunk wandering around, puckering its butthole and making people stinky.
Or the
I think
or
he
the
likes
toad that
buttholes.
lays a bunch of eggs in Penguin Drum as well.
Oh my god! Right? I think maybe the only reason it bothers me more here is because I'm trying so hard to make so much sense of this world, and I feel like I have no grounding. And so when Life's Sexy is trying to tell me something coded, and he's fucking rolling around with his butthole on the screen, I'm just like, I don't need this right right now.
Lily
Thank
agrees
you.
with you.
Just-
She was just like, could you stop? Could you
Stop. Show me the butt. But the
I
idea,
love her.
but the idea of the predatory lesbian also, mixes with the whole themes, right? Because one, like, recurring imagery, they use a lot of horror movie imagery from Western culture and European culture, because some big ones were the school's designed to look very much like the school in Suspiria. The Wall of Severance is the same design as the carpet from The Shining. Kuroha's house is similarly designed as Norman Bates' house in Psycho. So it's like they're clearly trying to put these thoughts of like horror and thriller. The idea that this is kind of like almost like a closed box mystery where the pieces are drip fed to you throughout it, and this sense of like these bears are attacking. We don't know who they are, why they're doing it, and we're kind of meant to fear them. And I think it's supposed to be obviously a commentary on how also society villainizes queer individuals as well as something to fear.
Yes.
And I'm mixed on that. And then I'm mixed on that.
Yeah, I can understand. One thing I did really like with the narrative, and also this happened a bit in the imagery as well, but they have a kind of like exclusion ceremony. And as the show goes on, it becomes less, because at first it starts as exclude the evil. But then it becomes exclude the bear. And then it becomes exclude so on and so, like it becomes more and more pinpoint. So it's almost like, okay, we're going to exclude this group of people. Now we're going to target the specific thing that we do not like. And I just thought that was interesting.
I agree.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
I think The Invisible Storm is one of the best and cool, most well-realized idea, because like you point out, it hints at it early on to make it seem like this quote-unquote fair system, but it's really more pinpointed than it is right from the get-go, especially when, it's the drip feed. It tells you more information as it goes on about this is definitely not a fair system. It's clearly aimed and goal to spread their hatred.
Yeah, exactly.
I have another note here. For me, I think some of my favorite aspects of the show, just speaking of things that were really well executed, I really liked it, I think because it's so symbolic and has so many things to tell. I really liked when it went into more fantastical settings or added storytelling elements. Episode 4, I think, is one of the best episodes in the entire show. And then I also love the picture book, like the picture book story and the way that is utilized. And I love like the past of one character, of like Ginkgo's character, when we get to see these kind of worlds that are even less grounded in reality. I think that works, and maybe it's because like so many things of it are so bonkers that like I just like kind of, this is a world that I don't know, but I'm here to get through it. And it's just a fun setting. I like the little fairy tale or like fantastical elements that this show employs.
Oh yeah, it uses a lot of interesting imagery, like I said, the horror imagery, the fairy tale-esque imagery. When it shows the bear side, there's a lot of war imagery, and I think that's very interesting. It creates a different idea of what the two societies are like, and how they differ, and how and how their societies grew when separated from each other as well, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so actually another thing that I think was my favorite aspect of the show, and what I think was probably like one of the strongest pieces of execution in the show for me, was actually the end. Like the last 2 minutes of this show, I think was incredibly powerful, and I love it. That's like, that I think just like really brings strength to the overall message. So
I agree.
Really well done on the ending.
The ending makes me tear up every fucking time. And I think it's a really...
It's so good.
And it's
very strong.
And it's reflective of a lot of things that he's shown in his other works, like Utena especially, like, just because you change one aspect or just because you as a individual are able to move away from what is going on in the real world or what's going on in society, there are these little things that are changing little by little. It's not going to change overnight.
Yes.
Like it's a soft spoiler, but the invisible storm never disappears by the end of the show. It's still there. Mm-hmm. It's still raging. It's a storm, and you're only going to know what we're talking about if you watch the show. So we're good. But yeah, the invisible storm doesn't go away, but aspects, there's little aspects that do trickle down from this improvement that these two characters make overall, that other people are starting to follow in their footsteps, even if it's just by a little bit.
Yes.
And it's just good. It's good.
Yeah, It's really good. And I mean, on that aspect, I don't know how I could interpret Sarazan my end of this, because that ending's still... I need to rewatch that show.
Me too.
But I feel like, since Uten, and we all know this, Ikuhara has a thing about disappearance, just big vague word, and impact of disappearances. And I feel like his shows get more and more hopeful. I do feel like the end of Yurikuma is probably the most like overt and hopeful in its message, and I do like that.
For sure.
One of the reasons that I like the Utena ending, but it's not quite satisfying in the way that this ending is. You know,
the Kureha twist is also really good. I won't say what it is, but I liked it a lot.
It's so good. Yes, very strong.
I love it.
Yeah, that was another really impressive moment. I think that was a great piece of writing.
Indeed.
So, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of good to be found in this story. I just think that, for me, it's probably one of the more laborious shows for me to watch by Ikuhara, which really just means that I need to pay attention and I need to try to go deep. And I benefit the deeper that I have knowledge, or the deeper that I go with the show.
For sure. You want to go over to characters now?
Zach, I heard you, and take a breath.
Sure, we can go over to characters.
I mostly want to
Okay.
transfer to characters so I can immediately throw the ball into Zach's court. Because one of the things that you mentioned, Cammie, about the story was that it felt like it was extremely a lot of stuff, but being compressed so that it was very hard to find the niche moments or the essence of, like, nuance. And me and Zach had this very small conversation about how that very much is basically Koreha's character.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into it.
Over, because we're all going to talk about Lulu. Spoiler: she was all of our favorite characters. So we could save the best for last. Well, or I mean, it could not be Zach. Zach has Lulu as his icon, possibly as a joke. I don't know, but
much along with the Invisible Storm, I went with the crowd. Unfortunately, I love Lulu. So,
well, Zach, who was your favorite character then?
I think Ginkgo really shined for me on the second time around.
Okay,
for me.
Well, let's talk about your Kureha point. Then we can go to Ginkgo. Then we can go to Lulu, because that's the main three anyway.
Yeah, might as well talk about all three. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kureha and Ginkgo kind of go hand in hand, though, in my opinion.
Yeah.
To a degree. Where I think both characters definitely benefit from the rewatch, because you learn much more. I think okay, this is going to be talking about all three characters in a sense, but stay with me here.
Go!
I think it's so easy on the first time round to fall in love with Lulu, because you get what she's about very quickly. Because she has her early focus episode, like in episode 4. That's usually the episode where I turned around on the show, personally. I think the show has a very slow start. The first 3, even rewatching, I'm like, it's kind of a slow beginning, kind of building up to it. I think the Lulu episodes when things kind of like click and go into high gear. And that's why it's so easy to fall in love with Lulu, because you kind of get what she's about. You get her motivations. You understand where she's coming from. But with Kureha and Ginkgo, you're still being drip feed throughout the story about what they're about, what their motivations are, and so on and so forth. And you don't even really know much about what Ginkgo's whole ordeal is until like the very end of the show. And I feel like Kureha still suffers the most too on the first watch, because she has a very to put it nicely, a very off-putting personality.
Abrasive is a word I would use.
Yeah, that's definitely the word you used to me yesterday.
Yes.
but I feel Kuriha, I think is Ginkgo, I think, benefits from this rewatch, though, because now that you watch it the first time through, you know what she's about, so you're watching for that stuff as you're watching through the show, and now you understand her motivations a lot more, so it's easier to like her and embrace her as a character. Well, Kuriha, I think her biggest problem is that I think she's too subtle, is, I guess, the polite way to put it. I think it's a lot more subtle. I think it requires a lot more to kind of, like, get into the character's headspace, while the other characters kind of, like, Lulu puts it very forward early on. Ginkgo is drip fed to you. I think Kuriha has got to kind of like this understanding why she has this kind of like abrasive personality. I think it's partially because she, as we learned by, is that a spoiler? Should I really talk about this part of the show? She goes through a very traumatic moment as a child, which you understand, which changes her and allows her to be very distrusting of the people around her.
Yes.
That's why she's very not like, say, accepting of people's friendships. Throughout the show, we also see why she's distrusting people, because whenever she does open up to certain people, she usually gets fucked over for it. Give or take, it could just be a bad judge of character, too. I don't know how much you can accept the invisible storm as many times as she does throughout the show, but
Yeah.
But I think also it's part of her thing as well as the idea of one of the themes of the show is that you have to give up on something for love. And I think for her, Sumika represents love. So she's given up on other connections because she so focused on Sumika, her one love, and also her revenge for her mom and Sumika. And that's her motivation. So she doesn't want to give up on love. And her way is basically other human connections. And that's why she's pushing it back. And also kind of like to not only to focus on love, but to like protect herself from being hurt again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I don't think I could really summarize Kuriha in any other way, to be honest, because I've always been very pro Yurikuma. I've never been necessarily pro character development in Yurikuma until my second and third, because I always loved the themes in Yurikuma, and I think that it does an amazing job in that regard. I love aesthetically how Yurikuma looks. We'll get more of that into production, but I just love how it looks. I think it's pretty, blah, 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 blah. I never thought that all of the characters were super well developed. Though when I watched it through, I think this is my third rewatch, like, I'm starting to get more of an appreciation for both Kuriha and Ginkgo's motivations. Ginkgo especially. Because I always felt that I kind of understood Kuriha. I never understood Ginkgo my first watch through. Yeah. I just felt that she was just kind of there as a vehicle to just be the, bare side of love. But then rewatching it through again, I'm like, oh no, I had this girl all wrong. Like, she has so many complicated things going on.
She's probably one of the more tragic characters in the story, because she also suffers through a traumatic moment as her childhood. This idea, I think, comes down to a singular line which breaks me, is it not okay to be a bear? And obviously in this case, bear means queer, lesbian. So in her mind, am I not allowed to be queer? Is that not okay? And just she suffers through identity issues. That's like her big story arc. She's having identity crisis, and that's why she latches on to this delicious smell.
Delicious smell.
Gao gao.
Gao.
I think with Ginkgo, something that helps me, and again, rewatch value, is, again, not looking at this show or this world as face value, because especially early on, a flashback regarding Ginkgo, I just felt like a lot of her actions were very, obviously, again, we can see where this is coming from, but just very, like, very forced stuff, predatory, like, without consent, and that really made me uncomfortable, and I'm not also a fan of kind of typically as a narrative device, the later justification that they gave, though I think it was well done here. But if I look at Ginkgo, and honestly all of the characters, but especially something that helps me with Ginkgo, is looking at how people act within a fucked up system. They react and do fucked up things because the system doesn't allow them to be their best selves, and they'll do problematic things. Think about how many people in... Think about how many people in down and out situations end up in jail for things like drugs and stuff drug selling because they can't get a normal job. It's that sort of thing. And that, I think, helps me and makes me understand and kind of in a little bit of a way appreciate I do think there are flaws in her character, like some of her character flaws, but like being able to get a sense of where they come from.
Yeah.
So,
like her big thing is about her identity, like between what she wants, who she is, where she comes from. Is it okay to be a bear? Should I not be a bear? Why her obsession with Kuriha is mostly just her way trying to find her identity. She's also in a constant battle of love and desire and what that is and what she really feels about that. And again, it's a whole part of her whole character arc is evolving, figuring who she is and accepting and loving herself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is good.
Yeah. And figuring out that and not how it should be expressed within a fucked up system. Like, it's just, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So Lulu.
Yeah.
I love her.
She gave up kisses!
She gave up kisses!
Lulu's the fucking best. And I think Zach made a really good point about how you fall in love with her very easily because her reasoning is understandable, her story is relatable. I'm also going to be honest, on a very just aesthetic scale, she is the best character design. I fucking love the way she looks. She's so cute. She's so fun. She's so inviting. Like, I've never really seen another character that I think looks like Lulu. So my eyes were always just drawn to her whenever she was on screen. And she's such a good girl. And I love her. And honestly, like, most of my emotional investment in the show was tied to Lulu. When I cried watching the show, it was related to Lulu. And I did cry.
I do it too. Every time. All day, day. For a lot of reasons. I also think that Lulu is the most obvious example of love can change a person. Because the person that she is in her backstory and the selfishness that she had in her own kind of, I guess her own, what's the word, hubris. She learns from it, and then her love for Ginkgo in turn is almost this redemption story. In addition to being something that she also actually feels. So she's just very complicated, but also the most easy character to understand at the exact same time. And I think that makes her more accessible to people.
Yes.
In the long run. She's also just very cute and very sweet.
I mean, she is very cute.
And the way she's
so
also manipulated is also very true to her character, because she is manipulated just like everybody else in this story at some point. To the point where she, betrays the person she loves. And I think that that's very important.
It's all part of the fucked up system that turns people against each other, man.
And bear!
I mean, I might also have to point out, I love, it's character related to a sense of with the life bears. I think it's very important the reason why these characters are male.
Yeah.
As well, because they are controlling, they're the ones who are deciding whether it's okay for these women to do what they can do. They have to get it Yuri approved by men. Of course it's by fucking men, because it's still part of this patriarchy system that's still controlled by men. Even though it's still a world that's consistently pretty much all females, men still control over everything and dictate what women do in the story.
Yep.
Honestly, now that you mentioned that, that's probably also why when things happen after Yuri approved, it looks the way that it does. That kind of helps me a little bit.
I mean, it kind of hints at it too at one point, because there's a certain scene of the bears watching, and when they're looking through their binoculars.
The fucking binoculars.
And it's meant to be 100%. This is the male gaze. Do you get it? It's the male gaze.
You get it? LOL.
Do you need another quarter?
You need another quarter.
And also think their names come from the idea of what men view themselves as sexy, cool, and so on and so forth, and beautiful. I think it's just also just like this idea of how men view themselves and what they think women should be too. So again, part of this whole fucked up patriarchy system as well.
Yeah. They're still likable though, which is great.
Oh yeah, they're very likable, but they're clearly meant to represent something clearly fucked, basically.
Yes.
That's so interesting.
Shabba-da-doo.
Shabba-da-doo.
I don't really know where to put this, so I'll just put it in here. My favorite, I obviously have a lot of good moments of the show that I enjoy because I mentioned a lot. But if you really asked me, like, to show you a clip that would get you invested into Yurikuma, it would be a clip where there's like a dramatic lightning clap, and then you see like Sexy Bear, and he goes shabada, shabada, doing the horror like da-na-na.
Yeah, it's good.
Again,
It's the best.
Playing with the horror aspect as well.
Yeah, that was good shit. I love that moment. It makes me happy.
This will also be very brief, but I also felt a lot more entertained by Mitsuko Yorizono, which was the like class president girl who like tries to help out Koreha and her lovely beautiful girlfriend at the beginning, and then things happen. I like how they brought her back in a way to represent a very specific point.
I agree.
Originally, I was super confused by that. I just didn't get the point. I was like, what? And then I like on a rewatch, I think that I really understand, one, her initial character, and also why they brought that particular character back into the picture later on. And I'm like, okay, cool. Neat. Mm-hmm. I like it. I like it a lot.
In regards to that, too, it's the one thing I remember watching this show the first time. I got the idea of the Invisible Storm, but I always thought it was strange why there was never one person. It's always felt like there's a different person who's leaned the search evil bit. But I think it dawned on me on the rewatch. I'm like, oh, it's because the idea is that it doesn't matter who's in charge of the system. There's always going to be someone who's going to rise up and basically spread hate in some shape or form. It doesn't matter who it is, who's leading the charge, because someone's going to come around and basically spread a form of hatred and continue to lead this herd-like mentality of spraying hatred among the peers and basically forcing everyone to participate or be excluded.
Mm-hmm.
You're with us or you're against us. And if you're against us, you might as well be dead.
Or be eaten by a bear.
Well, that's exactly the same thing, depending on your interpretation.
I mean, it depends on what part of the show. Being eaten by a bear could be a good or bad thing, depending on what part of the show.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing that was kind of, I think, difficult for me to try and explain to Lily without her seeing the entire show, is that she's like, well, I don't understand. Like, they say they're eating Koreha, but, like, not really. And also those scenes at the beginning are honestly, the first couple episodes are kind of confusing because they're like, Koreha, I'm going to eat you. And then they have this long, like, scene where they're just, licking her lilies and shit. And then they're not even there, really. They're just... It doesn't really end up, like, with them actually interacting with her or helping her with the situation until, like, episode 5. So it's like, this is weird.
Yeah, it's more symbolic, I guess.
Yeah.
It's symbolic.
It's a metaphor. I'm a metaphor.
I did want to actually ask this, and obviously we can't get into full detail until later, but just initial impressions, because this character also seems to be controversial. Did you guys like Sumika? Did you hate Sumika? Was she okay? Was she
Cass
just
has
there?
a very interesting point about this that she made to me yesterday.
I'm going to be really repetitive. I like her more on a rewatch because originally I felt Sumika was a very throwaway character that was only there to be kind of a plot device to drive very specific parts of the narrative, and otherwise she was just pointless and had no real character whatsoever outside of dying in the first episode. That's it. However, when I watched it through again, I was like, Sumika is very, very important because she's not just a character, she's an embodiment of a principle of what Kureha's love is and what she has as expectations from there on out for the entirety of the story. And it even comes down to one of Kureha's very big decisions at the end, like how her love for Sumika was very important in regards to a different decision that she made. I also believe that for some reason my brain wiped out the entire episode where you have like a little nice like flashback of Sumika writing her letter to Kureha and how she's one of the very rare characters who's like in that in between. Like, do I be part of the storm or do I leave the storm? And in that regard, am I leaving the storm for selfish purposes? And I think that's super interesting. And I didn't really latch onto that until a rewatch. So yeah, I like Sumika.
Still don't like her voice that much.
Nah, her voice sucks.
That's fair.
And it sucks in English too. I'm sorry. You guys are very talented individuals. It might just be the direction. I don't know. I just don't like her voice in either.
Yeah.
It's her voice. It reminds me of that quality, and one of the main reasons why I skip the opening for the show every time. I just don't like that whispery type.
Ooh, we'll
voice.
get into that soon.
I love the opening. You sit down.
Visually, I like the opening. The song, it's the same thing. I just don't like when people talk like that or sing like that.
I just don't like how they made her voice so sickeningly sweet. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but yeah.
In a very like shallow aspect, I wonder what my impression of her would be on a rewatch. I definitely think, like you, Cassie, it would be more in depth because, yeah, she's kind of more for a lot of like narrative purposes than necessarily a character. But when I was first watching the show, she kind of grounded me until I got invested in Lulu because she's just sweet. She's like the one character that's sweet, and all these other characters are frustrating me because either I don't understand them or they were doing problematic shit. So I actually really liked Sumika, and I was like, can I get more Sumika, please? Also, her character design is really cute.
I love her character design. I like how she has those little flowers on her glasses.
Yeah. But anyway, like, then I definitely see what you mean, where it's like, for what she ends up becoming in the show, it's kind of like, and I do think, like, I think on first watch, she was really good for me and I really enjoyed her character. On a second watch, I think I could appreciate everybody more. That includes Sumika.
I had the reverse experience. Well, sort of.
Much akin to the student council presidents, more used to represent something later on as well.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Shabba-da.
Yeah.
Shabba-da-da.
Shabba-da-ba-da-da. We want to go into production?
Yeah.
Because the only other major character to really talk about is kind of like a spoiler. So
Yeah. Okay, why don't we, we were just talking about it, so I mean, everybody lay bare. Let's talk.
Nice.
God damn it! Let's talk about the opening and endings of the show.
You weren't here for this, Cammy, but before we started recording, Zach was like, "You should have saved this show for episode 169." And I.
God damn it. We'll do something. We'll find something for that episode.
Interspecies reviewers is right there.
No!
Oh my god, no.
No!
Maybe. Cassie, maybe we can drag it out for a really long time. Maybe prison school can be 169.
No!
So that way you have more time to prepare.
No!
I mean, it could fall that way. This is 142, right? So that's 17 episodes or 17 weeks from now. So
we'll see.
Oof.
We'll see what happens.
You could time that potentially.
Okay, so court on trial. Zach does not like the opening. Cassie loves the opening. I know that you love this opening.
I'll let Zach go first.
I mean, okay. I already said my thoughts. Really, I just don't like the song.
All right, I'm gonna let you finish.
It creeps me out.
But
I don't need this bullshit. I can't help what I think is creepy. It's just creepy to me. I don't know. I just don't like the whisper scene. I feel like I'm gonna get stabbed during the opening.
I mean, to be fair, that could be a very good mood for Yurikuma to be saying.
Some bear's gonna maul me in the middle of this opening.
Good!
I just don't. And I don't know if it's a good or bad thing anymore.
That's good.
I think imagery is great. I think all Ikuhara's openings are great in terms of like the visual imagery. It just I just don't like the song. That's all, and so I have to skip it every time. That's all. So
I'll never forgive you.
Well, it's cool. I'm fine with that, I guess.
I think that the song and the visuals are both really good. The visuals, because they do this really interesting thing where they like transition with like honey and they go from like one character to another, like spreading their arms out. And there's this really great scene where Kuraiha's falling out of a bathtub, and I'm pretty sure that's a reference. And it just looks very aesthetically pleasing. One of the reasons I really like the opening and the sound of it is because I think that it gives this kind of like sultry kind of like, I don't get scared from it. I get more like of a sultry, like, I want to like whisper sweet nothings into your ear kind of feeling. Like, talk dirty to me, baby, but softly kind of. Like, I feel like the singing's kind of sexual, which I think works really well for the opening of the show.
I think that is absolutely part of the intent. I agree with that completely.
I can see why it's creepy to some people, though. I'm just giving Zach a hard time.
I agree with what you mean. It just creeps me out personally. I agree that's the intent. I just,
You're not like Cammy.
personal.
You don't like the ASMR whispering in your ear to get you going.
You know,
No, I don't think that's not for me.
Fucking pod. To be fair, on this song and opening has actually been a journey for me because I think initially I really didn't like it and then it grew on me. There are things that I really do like about it. I think that it is intended to be sexual, but sometimes for me, the way that it came off sexually, and this was through both the visuals and the sound of the song, and again, this could have been on purpose, it rang to me as infantilization sexual, and that creeps me out really bad. There's
Fair.
like the scene with the paw and the hand when she's like and she sounds so young and the hand looks so young and it just creeps me out in like in like that it's trying to be infantilized and I really don't like that part.
Right.
But then the chorus I like a lot. The song grew on me. I love the little just like kind of choir that's lilting in the back going like ha ha ha, like as an instrumental. That part is so fucking cool. And I love the scenes where like Lulu and Ginkgo are like going rawr with their paws. That part's super cute.
Go, go.
So it's like it's a mixed bag for me, but I will say it grew on me. I think sometimes it just makes me a little uncomfortable, but again, that could be part of the intent.
You know,
That could absolutely be part of it.
For me, I always like, you know what, this could be a problem. I always thought that the opening was trying to be two things at once. I think it was supposed to be like kind of sexual, but I think it was also trying to, with like, for example, the zoo-do part, I think it was trying to not like sexualize children. I think what it was trying to do was like say, this is the sweet side of love. This is the pure side of love. This is the soft. And that's brought into play with the show as well, especially in the last couple episodes. But having a shit ton of sexual imagery right before it, I guess, could also give that kind of impression as well. So I always saw it as, like when they were kids, they knew, you know, you had these two characters that like knew each other and loved each other. This is the pure love. Here's all the other
and
sexual
it does say
love.
always.
Yeah, like I want to be with you.
The lyric there is always.
Yeah, like there's like the lyrics where I want to pour you like honey all over you, and that's very obviously like sexual. And then you've got this line that's just like, I just want to be with you forever, and that's soft and sweet. But again. Trying to put both of those ideas in one opening was probably not the best idea. So
yeah, I can totally agree with you there, and I actually really appreciate that read. I think that's kind of more what I would like to lean to, so my instincts don't feel as uncomfortable every time I see that shot.
Fair.
Yeah, mostly like that shot, and then I also really don't like the toe biting, but that's just me.
Fair.
That's just me. I think about, because then I think about what it tastes like to bite someone's toe, and I'm like, that's gross, man. I don't want to do that.
We here at Annie Chatbox
I don't kink
support
shame.
everybody's kinks, and if you're into feet, that's fine. But yes, Cammy, I get it. I get where you're coming from.
Okay, cool beans. Okay, do you know, though, I love the fuck out of the ending of this show.
The ending's great.
Love it. Oh my god.
It's just a still, but I do like the dancing bear in the corner. So
I dance with the bear. Am I the only one that tries to dance with the bear and do the poses?
Oh, I get it too. And I like when they do that little wind down where it's like, and it spins really fast, like to the music. And
then when he's like running and it gets like super fast paced before the drop. Oh, I love it. It's just so energized and it synced well. And I like how poppy the song is. I love that it's sung by the three leads. I love the shit out of that ending, actually, and I watched it every time.
I like that they changed the stills, too. I like that.
Yeah, it's like every 3 or 4 episodes or something like that.
Which breaks up the monotony, because it is a very simple ED, but it doesn't need to be, like crazy with its visuals, because the song and the little dancing bear make up for it.
I think a lot of the Ikuhara's works outside of Sarah's and mine, I think are... the UDs are usually very simple in design.
Yeah,
that's
like, a good point. Yeah,
because this one is like the only anime thing is the bear, and it's mostly a pan out shot. It's the same thing with Penguin Drum. It's an image just scrolling up and so on and so forth. And the EDs for Utena are very simple. Like it's my favorite part of the show. Is like I love the second Is it the second? Yeah, it's the second ED of going up the elevator. And
The
it's just her
elevator.
standing in an
Yeah.
elevator, and if it going by with the song playing.
That's a really good point, actually. That's true. His endings do tend to be more minimalist. They're still great, but they kind of take a pause.
And even
just kinda give you
Sarazumai.
Maybe.
Sarazumai is also minimalist, but it's more extravagant in its minimalism because of the interesting blending of reality and animation into it, so it makes it more stand out a lot more. I guess.
Yes. That's a good point. The show also utilizes one of the great things of Ikuhara, and specifically in Penguin Drum, where it starts the ending right as they drop the episode card title.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking good.
Yeah, I love that. I also love the character designs in the show a whole lot. I love the eyes. I love the hair. I love the different hairstyles.
This is probably one of the parts I'm mixed on. I'm not a huge fan.
And that's okay. You can be wrong.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm used to it. I'm not just a big fan of Akiko Morishima's character designs. But usually Ikuhara teams up with like a mangaka with most of his productions to help create the show, and they usually do the character designs and stuff. And I think it's a famous Akiko Morishima is like a Yuri artist, so and she has a very cutesy look, obviously, to her designs in the world and stuff. And I don't know, not for me, but I think it's just because it's very simple. I guess I don't know. It reminds me of a show I'm not usually attracted to. It's like the very simple designs, the bright. I like the bright popping colors. I don't know. I think there's a very simplicity to the designs, and I think a lot of my problems with the show actually maybe doesn't fall with the character designs 100%, but it's with the animation, because I don't think there's not a lot of it.
Yeah, that's fair. And they reuse a lot of footage, which is fine. But
you could tell this is his lowest probably budget show, because he relies a lot more on reused animation. It's a lot of simple standing around stuff, and I think that's another reason why the show is off-putting when not Cass, I think it was Cammy that said throws a lot of like symbols and all this stuff, like the heavy Ikuhara like images and imagery and so on and so forth, because I think he's relying on that, because that's what he tends to go to, like to hide with the shows, like, oh, I can't animate this very well, so I'll reuse stuff or rely on imagery and other symbolisms. And I think the show does that, ups it, because I think it needs to hide the lacking of the animation at times. That's
a good point, I think. I agree that I love the colors.
Yes.
On the whole, I'd say that I think the character designs are fine. My favorite examples of character design in this show are Lulu and Sumika. I think they look fun. I think they look really unique. And I love them.
I love the bear designs.
The bear designs are super cute.
Bears are cute.
I also really like the class president's look. I like her.
I do too.
I love how she looks. She's so aesthetically pleasing.
It makes me sad she's not on the show a lot.
Yeah.
I like the principal too.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the characters in the back, flashbacks as well. I think it's just a lot of the student body. I think is very plain. I think a lot of it is intentional.
Yeah.
But even the quote unquote standout ones, if I've watched the show, are still kind of plain too. Just like there's just a one tiny aspect, like, oh, that's a side ponytail, I guess.
I think when it comes to the main three, I just like their designs a lot. I especially like that their outfits look different. I like that they're differently colored than everybody else.
Yes.
I like that Koreha wears a much longer skirt. I like how their little hats have different colored emblems on them, like little buttons. I don't know. It just appeals to me. I like it.
I mean, I agree. I like some of the designs of the outfits, at least for the main three. Because like you pointed out, like Kuriha has longer skirt, she has leggings, she doesn't wear the hat as often as the other two. She also doesn't wear boots. The other two have like these length, almost up to their knees type boots, while she just wears more like, I don't know if they're like regular shoes or if they're
loafers?
High heels or something. Or loafers. I don't know. I can't tell. I don't look at her feet very often. Can't say that's my thing.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Are you sure, Zach?
No, can't say I'm into feet.
I feel like there's a lot of kink shaming going around on this episode for a very specific
the real question: are you into paws?
Yes.
When they're in the regular bear form, or when they're doing these goofy, large cartoonish paws.
The large cartoonish paws.
The large cartoonish paws. I'm into it. It's great. It's cute.
It's sure.
I like their little princess outfits. I actually love that in the bear designs they have like also cute little like Ginkgo always has like a little crown in the necklace, and then Lulu has kind of like the like maid aesthetic kind of going on. It's just cute.
Those are cute.
I just like the bear designs the most. And I think it also it's funny because they're clearly meant to be these things that they fear in this world, and they're like little tiny little cubs with little squiggly eyes and just they just high pitched voices. They say "gow gow," and it's like, "Yep, I'm totally afraid of that thing." Let me pull out my rifle.
Remember, the harm is internal. It's not external. It's not due to what they look like. It's their nature. That's the fear.
And the stigma of society and so on and so forth. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I get it.
But no, it is kind of funny, like that these little tiny itty bitty creatures are literally mass murdering young women. Like,
yep. I mean, they go to war, as we see later on.
War! What is
bear war
it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Weakest production-wise, and that's why I relies a lot on the imagery, I feel, for the show.
I could agree with that. I also agree that there isn't a whole lot of animation, but I think that if you're willing to lean into your aesthetic enough, it can still look like, for example, a show I'm watching this season and that I won't shut up about is Hanako-kun, or Toilet Bound Hanako-kun.
Yes.
But me and Cammy had a conversation about it. The show isn't animated a whole lot, but they lean a lot into the aesthetic, and I think that I like that they tried to maintain the manga's aesthetic more so than trying to make something look amazing with the animation and the flow of the animation instead. Yes. I think that was a choice. And I think that similarly that choice is made with Yurikuma. And I can see why that wouldn't appeal to some people, but I like it a lot.
I mean, I agree. It's more off-putting. It's harder. It was clearly more difficult to hide this time around. Second time around, enjoyed a lot more. It did not bother me as much on the second time around because, again, expectations are already set. And I honestly really like when he fucking uses a lot of these symbolisms and imagery and so on and so forth. It's one of my favorite reasons why I love Ikuhara.
Yeah,
so.
I love that staircase. I love when they run on the staircase with the birds on it.
The recurring paws and bird imagery and so on and so forth. Again, it's the thing I love about Ikuhara is that he loves putting details into his world. Like you could clearly tell he's such an auteur who overly is over designing his world because he has so many thoughts and ideas of what he wants his world to look. Everything has a clear intent, obviously, from the use of imagery from horror movies, the use of like paws and the use of like the bird imagery to represent like this caged bird stuff. Other aspects in the environment like boxes and so on and so forth. Yeah. Like everything is designed with an intent. That's what I love about Ikuhara. Every piece of the show in the way it looks and how it works is designed to a T.
Yeah. Even if it does look a little wonky sometimes. I remember there was one like zoom out shot of like Kureha and Sumika talking in the garden, and Sumika had this really weirdly drawn face, and they stuck with that still for like 3 minutes, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, characters' cases can get kind of doofy sometimes.
Like there's some pretty big flubs occasionally.
This is a weird piece, but we can transition into talking about voice acting with this. I'm especially curious about the dub because I know, Cassie, you've seen some of it.
I watched all of it.
I almost want to rewatch it in sub because actually one of the other big things that like had me hung up on Ginkgo's character is I don't know the voice actress's name, but she's the same voice actress who did Himari in Penguin Drum.
Yeah.
So, like, half the time I had an issue with Ginkgo because every time she talked, I'm just like, oh, look, it's edgy Himari reskin or something. I was just like, I couldn't separate Himari, and it, like, was a big issue for me.
I just took that as, like, a lot of auteurs just like certain actors to work with. So I just like, he clearly likes working with that girl. Or same with Suwabe, because Suwabe's here, and he goes on to be in Sarazumai as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So it wasn't like a big issue, but I did think that was funny. But I think I agree with your criticism on Sumika. I think most everyone else did a really good job in the sub. I love Lulu's voice actress, but I love almost everything about Lulu, so.
Yeah.
What about
no
you,
surprise
Zach?
there.
And I think a lot of them are outside like Dimension Suwabe, because even technically Himari's VA is actually not a big voice actor. He likes to work with a lot of small actors. I think Sarazumai might be the show where he worked with the most like biggest names. Again, that could all be come back down to how Sarazumai had a fucking budget.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
But a lot of he likes to work with a lot of smaller VAs because like a lot of these actors, including Lulu and Ginkgo, do not have Lulu and Kurihas, for example. Their say at least don't have a Wikipedia page. They probably have a Mal page, obviously, but they don't even have a wiki page. So
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Well, and hey, I'm down for that. Get some smaller actors and actresses in.
Yeah. I did watch the
How
dub,
was the
and
dub?
I totally recommend rewatching the show with the dub. And the
Okay.
reason I do is because you're less focused on what the characters are. I don't know how to put this. Like, you're able to they
Like
break.
reading.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you don't have to read and also try and look at things and also try and understand what's going on. Also, I think the dub does a really good job of trying to make sense of some of the stuff that they don't go that extra mile in the Japanese per se. Like, they try and describe things in the English dub so that people will understand it. And to an extent, I like that, and to an extent, I think it also takes away from the experience. But I think they obviously they dubbed it with an English audience in mind. And I think in a way that does help with watching it and like digesting the information. The cast is also just really good. Monica Rial does Ginkgo, and I didn't even recognize her like really at first. I think that she did a really good job as Ginkgo. You've got J. Michael Tatum as Life Sexy, which was great. Outside of them,
Shabadadu.
I'm not a huge fan of how they changed the Shabadadu to Shabadadu. I was a little annoyed with.
Thanks.
But
I hate it.
But he did a really good job otherwise. They always have that line where he's like, "For this is sexy," and he did a really good job as that particular character. Koreha's VA is also really great. The only character I was kind of frustrated with was Lulu, and that's because her voice actress had the perfect voice for Lulu. Like, I could tell what they were going for, but they made her do that high-pitched, cutesy girl thing that has always plagued English dubs and drives me nuts. But other than that, I think that the dub had a very strong cast, and I would totally recommend it. It's a Funimation dub. Most of them are quality, in my opinion. But it's one of their better dubs, I think, and you should watch it.
Cool.
Also, something we forgot
Very
to
cool.
mention is I think that's really important is that you have Ikuhara as a man who's a director, but I believe a lot of the rest of the people who worked on Yurikuma were female. So he had a lot of, female input into this show, which I think is important and cool.
Definitely.
Cool. I like
All right. We want to move on into rating the sucker?
I'm totally game.
Okay. Zach
I'm being called out first,
gets to go first.
I get to go
I see
last.
how-
It's my choice.
I see. Yeah, and Cammy's hosting.
Yeah.
I should have saw this
Yeah.
coming, but
This is what
I'm
happens. You see, I should have hosted, but Cammy's sweet, and I was sick, and she took the reins. But you got two things going against you.
So I've been excluded.
Oh!
I've been voted and excluded from the so the storm strikes once again. It feels weird because I remember part of me, I want to give it, I want to say, I didn't give up on love, but I think I'm going to give it a like it. And I feel weird, indifferent about it because I like the show a lot. And I feel even more indifferent because I gave Sarah's Mind a love it, but I think in retrospect, I would change Sarah's Mind to a like it, because I think I like this show more than Sarah's Mind. I think it tackles a lot of the same themes and ideas as Sarah's Mind, but I think it's a lot more interesting in Yurikuma Arashi. I think the show has some problematic elements, and I can't comment on all of it because I am not very knowledgeable in those particular areas, as I voiced very early on. But I think on the show definitely benefited from the rewatch. I'm really glad I went to rewatch it because while slow at the beginning, I started this technically earlier in the week, and I dragged the games for those first 3 episodes. But once I hit the Lulu episode, I just straight onwards, straight on to tomorrow. And it was a very easy pickup, and I just kept binging it. It was much easier that way. But yeah, it's a very strong like it. Very strong like it. And like I said, in retrospective, I would give Sarazanmai a like it as well.
Fair.
Because again, I think I like this more than Sarazanmai.
Hell yeah.
Also impossible for me to, be indifferent on the Ikuhara show at this point. Can I just point that out there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a bit, Cassie.
Oh, no.
And this can either be like way too sexual and slightly cringe, or I can just give it to you like straightforward delivery.
Girl.
And I leave the choice in your hands.
Oh, please. You know exactly what the choice is. Go with the first one. Go.
Do I have to
Okay.
take my headphones out
Okay.
for this?
No.
Should I leave?
So I
No, you
think
have to
that
be here.
I think that appropriate to its nature, Yurikuma understands that the deeper in you go, the better it's gonna feel. So this.
I wish I was this clever.
So, this show, I think, benefits so much from rewatch value. Just in the fact that when I first watched it, I had a lot of frustrations. I had a lot of hangups that honestly put me in like a skip it to check it range. I also will say, along with Zach, though, that honestly, like once you get around episode 4 or 5, things really do start to pick up. They get really interesting. That's always been with me. Hence, I'm saying this show knows when to go deep and how to get good. So that definitely changes. That definitely changes my my rating for this show. I'm really glad that I got to give it a rewatch. I may do one later in the dub in the future. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a like it as well. I will say also though, like with Zach, it's the same thing really, I think, with Sarazanmai. I think really the only reason Sarazanmai got a love it on first impression versus Yurikuma is because I could enjoy it more from a surface level. And I couldn't necessarily personally do that with Yurikuma, but like, I'm really glad I gave it a second shot. It does a lot of really fun things. Obviously, it has some very strong messages. I just kind of needed to know how to read it better.
Yeah.
Practice my fingering techniques.
Oh, Jesus.
So,
Boo! Boo! You're trying too
And I'm
hard
just-
now.
I'm just gonna the little candy cane hook is gonna pull me out of this review off the stage. So before I do, yeah, I gotta like it. It's really good. Check it out. This was fun. Gao gao. Bye. I'm sorry. Lead us out here on a good note, Cassie.
I mean, I'm all here for it. I think it's great. You're perfect. Don't ever change.
I'm never coming back.
Oh no, Zach!
I'm officially announcing this is my last review for the ACB pod. Good luck
Can
to
I
y'all.
still be on
and,
the Can I still be on the movies episode of Save Our Progress?
No, you can be on our show. I'm just not coming back here.
Oh, come on.
Damn it!
Come into our house of
sorry.
debauchery. It's great.
I mean, I was all fine until we got to fingers, and I lost.
Oh,
Zach,
you weren't lost
I
at
admit-
toes? Please.
I admit it was a tad too far. I apologize.
I mean-
But also, Zach, you were all up in the butt puns during our Sarazanmai episode.
Yeah, I
so
think
you
this is fair.
Can't say shit.
Sure.
I think this is equivalent exchange. Anyway.
Woo!
So Yurikuma is extremely special to me because I watched Yurikuma and Flip Flappers, I think a year or two later, when I was really struggling with my own sexuality, and I only really came to terms with it within the last, 5 years or so. And I think for that reason, it really holds a very special place in my heart. I also think that it's a very polarizing LGBTQ, narrative that we don't see a lot. So in that regard, it's also a very, very, very important work. And I feel like most people who are part of that community should probably at least give it a watch. It might rub you the right way. It might rub you the wrong way. But in some way, it's rubbing you. So.
God damn it. God fucking damn it. But I agree. Outside the pushing it too far, much akin to this show can do sometimes.
But yeah,
God.
one way or the other, you're going to come out with some thoughts and feelings and emotions. I won't guarantee they will be positive, but you'll still have something to talk about. And I think that in that regards, it's a very important work. I actually rated the Ikuhara shows to Zach recently, and this is my second favorite
Ooh, I was gonna.
Ikuhara show. And
Yeah, I was gonna. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, we can go back to you in a minute. But for that, and in that regard, I can't give it anything less than a love it. I love all Ikuhara shows. I love every single one of them. I think that Sarazanmai is probably my least favorite of his, but I'd still probably give it a love it because it's an experience that I didn't get to have anywhere else. And I think that's why Ikuhara is my favorite director. I didn't dislike any of his works. I think I loved every single one of them. And this being my second favorite one, I have to give it a love it. And yeah. Before Zach gets to go on his Ikuhara conversation, which I'm sure he wants to have, I do want to get our recommendation out of the way, and that's one. Obviously, any of the other Ikuhara works, if you haven't seen them and you've seen Yurikuma, there's plenty of more fun to be had. Though, if you have seen all of his works, or you want to try something also really interesting and in the same vein, in my opinion, but a little less, a little less out there. I mean, I guess that's really subjective, but I would recommend Flip Flappers. It's also a really good show that explores not only sexuality, but also being part of a system that's trying to make you into the exact same kind of fold as everybody else who's come before you. It has a lot of really interesting conversations about psychology and psychiatry, and also just how people develop in their early teen years. I think it's definitely worth the watch. It also subverts a bunch of genres, which is cool. So yeah. Zach.
Hell yeah.
Never finished it.
What were you going to say?
I was going to ask, because you guys watched all the shows now. How would you rank the shows?
Cammy,
are you putting Rank That Ghibli and now it's Rank That Ikuhara, Zach?
It's Rank That Iku.
Okay, I already know Zach,
Iku,
so
please.
Cammy, rank your Ikus.
You and I are literally just, like, one switched. So for me, it's Penguin Drum, Utena, Yurikuma, and Sarazanmai.
Where would you put the Utena movie?
I group it with Utena, personally.
Okay.
But if I made that separate, it would probably be Penguin Drum, Utena movie, Yurikuma, Sarazanmai.
Fair. Zach?
Utena's number one with a bullet. Never Will Die. Then Penguin Drum, Yurikuma, then Sarazanmai. And if I had to separate the movie, then show of Utena, then Penguin Drum, Yurikuma, Sarazanmai.
You might be the one person I know that would go movie series on Utena, but that's a convo for another day.
Actually, I like the movie better too.
Ooh, cool.
We can have a fun convo about it.
They go.
Cool.
They go hand in hand. It's just the movie's obviously the easiest to go back to because it's a movie compared to the show.
Well, I think that it's a lot easier to understand. I also like the role that Toga and
Toga's role is so good.
Yeah, it's so different, and I like it.
But I think, we're gonna go a little bit offhand, but I think it plays a little bit into the show, though, I think that's why they're good supplements to each other overall.
We should just have a box bits about the Utemu movie. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I could talk about that movie again.
Yeah, let's do it. It could just be a small...
I've already done it once for my pod, but I could do it again.
We could have a 30 to 45 minute conversation about the Utena movie. And if you want to tune in, or
30 minutes?
Or it could be longer. That's just the minimum. The minimum is
that'll happen.
Anyway, if you do want to hear that episode when it happens, you could subscribe to our Patreon, which I will talk about in a minute. But my ranking would be Penguin Drum, Yurikuma, Utena movie, Utena, then Sarazanmai. But they're all love-its. I love all of them. So it doesn't really matter the order. It's just, I think I also rank them in regards to importance to me more so than the show's narrative or its its merits, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I agree as well. Utena is like my favorite, one of my favorite shows of all time. You all listened to it. You were there for the Penguin Drum episode. Yeah. I'm assuming the audience has been there for the Penguin Drum episode. It's
yeah. No, I would.
Of course.
I'd say the same. Yeah. Utena has a fucking character of color in it. Like, that's super important to me.
Of course.
So
I think, it's like, I still stand it's his magnum opus, but that's my opinion.
For sure.
And I've been told many times on this pod, I am wrong.
Iku.
Listen, we're all wrong.
You want to know what's going to make it really fucking... What's going to make it really hard, which we'll do another time, but if we rank that Iku, but we include the series of Sailor Moon that he directed, and then the Sailor Moon R movie. That makes it even harder.
I'd have to go back and rewatch the Sailor Moon stuff he did.
It almost feels so different, though, because it's not, like, all him. I mean, don't get me wrong.
The movie was.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, he still has to play with basically someone else's toys. I think that's the whole thing I have with Sailor Moon. It's still Ikuhara playing with somebody else's toys still for the most part, but
I feel like he does that, but I will agree with you that I think that he didn't have as much free reign. Because, I mean, have you read Utena's manga? Anyway, getting off topic.
Anyway, we will discuss how to break this into box bits. Maybe it'll be a series of box bits. We'll talk about it off
the Ikuhara saga.
The Ikuhara Chronicles.
Just to point out the Utena manga thing is he could, much akin to all these other things, manga version always comes with the show. He's not based off a show because he always collaborates with a mangaka for each of his shows.
Oh yeah, I'm reading the Yurikuma manga and it's vastly different from the show. So yeah.
And his free reign is he co-creates the show with the manga and he lets the manga have free reigns because obviously he's a control freak with the TV show himself. So
I'll give you this one. Anyway, I'm going to give us some free time to get out of here. I would love to have a spoiler room, but I am literally dying. So maybe we can save that for our box bits as well. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go ahead and get us out of here with our social links if that's okay with everyone. Unless you two want to have a spoiler room. I mean...
No, I can do it. I'm the host. I will totally take care of that for you. Oh, yeah, totally.
I forgot that. Go. Run with the wind.
It's okay.
Flip yourself onto the hood of that car, girl, and drive us down the interstate.
Okay, if you want to get in touch with us, check us out at twitter.com/AnnieChatbox. You can send us an email at anniechatmail@gmail.com. You can listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you do feel like getting some good Patreon rewards, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/AnnieChatbox. Biggest shoutouts and appreciations to Sarah, CorpsyAnn, Carol, Suki, Paul, and TroubleClef. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on and maintaining our SoundCloud subscription. And Drango, a $7 fucking patron. Drango, I love you so much. You are the best. We love you, John. So yes, thank you seriously to all of our patrons for helping us out. You all are amazing. And if you want more of Zach... since unfortunately he'll no longer be hanging out here with us because we kicked him away.
Well, there's no more Ikuhara show, so why do I come around anymore?
We will fucking tie you down and bring you back. You will be tied to a chair and you will be forced to talk with your eyelids held open.
I mean, if there's a movie coming on, then I'll come back. If you want a re-review, Utena, I would gladly come back for the re-Utena podcast.
What about Evangelion? You're going to be on that one.
Oh, right. I signed up for that already.
You did. Can't escape now.
Whoops.
In the meantime, in between then, for the Evangelion, when Zach is returned against his own will, you can listen to him and Craig and Pete and Paul and occasional guests, including Cassie and myself, on Save Our Progress at soundcloud.com/saveourprogress. Go ahead and give them a listen. I eagerly await the anime of the decade discussion with Miss Cassie.
Oh, it's a long one.
I'm so ready.
It's so long.
I'm excited.
It's so long. Oh, no.
Oh, no. I keep waiting for that to go up, because I'm like, are you even going to be able to compress the file enough to upload it onto, I don't know.
I have something to tell you about that. Off
pod. Oh, no! Oh, no!
So, yes.
Anyway, let's get out of here.
Oh, no. Oh, yes. Gao. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been episode 142 of the Annie Chatbox. Sayonara. Go chase after that delicious smell.
Desire.
Shabba-da-doo.